everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well and reading fantastic books. I'm bringing a little reading vlog to you this week, but before I get into what books I'll be reading this weekend, I would need to introduce you to new members of our family. Meet Daisy, Daffy, and Dolly. They are 2 weeks old. They're runner ducks, but it's still too early to tell whether they are silver or blue runners. I think they may be the blue variety, as they have a cute little dot of yellow on the corners of their bills. They are so fun to play with and watch, especially as they dive and swim. If you hear peeping and clattering in the background, it's their bath time right now. I hope it isn't too distracting. So May is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and so I pulled a couple books from my shelves that I'm most anticipating reading. And before I get into telling you about those, I need to tell you about one that I finished, and that's At Last She Stood, How Joey Guerrero Spied, Survived, and Fought for Freedom by Erin and Entrada. This was such an emotional read for me, reading about Josephina and her life. What an inspirational and remarkable woman, and what a life she lived. Even though it's intended for young readers, it's well under 200 pages long, I enjoyed this book so much, and it's the love and amount of care and time that took into doing all the research is so obvious, and what a loving tribute to this unsung hero that I know so many of you have never heard of before. And when it comes to stories about World War II, this part of the world is unfortunately often overlooked, and I think it's wonderful that stories such as this one, where the contribution of women during this time, her story is at the forefront. And we need more books like this one. Growing up, my mom told me stories of my own Lolo and Lola, my grandparents, who were teenagers during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines, and so this just reminded me of them and of home, and it makes me so extremely proud of being Filipino. I also appreciate how Erin incorporated the lives and stories of fellow women and men that Josephina knew and worked closely with, such as Lulu Reyes and Manuel Calaiko. What a lovely tribute to a woman whose legacy serves to remind us all that we are far more capable and resilient than we think we are. And I am so grateful for this woman and all the sacrifices and turmoil that she went through. I can't even fathom the amount of trauma she had to endure. So yeah, lovely. For the remainder of today, it's about a little before 7. I am going to make a bit of dinner while listening to another new release, and that's An Emperor of Gladness by Vuong. I've been anticipating reading his work. I've heard so many accolades of his writing, and I am really looking forward to this one. So I'll either check in with you before bed, or I will most likely check in with you tomorrow morning. See you soon. Bye-bye. Hi friends, it's now Saturday. I'm filming around lunchtime as a few friends stopped by earlier to meet the Ducklings. I did get a chance to start The Emperor of Gladness. This is narrated by Erin, and I already am spellbound with Vuong's style of writing. His descriptions are beautiful. His dialogue, I immediately became invested in his characters and the journey I've embarked on with them. It's set in Connecticut about 20 years ago. The opening, the way our protagonists cross paths, is somber and dramatic. You meet a young Vietnamese teenager named Hai, and you find him on a bridge planning to jump and end his life. And at the same time, he's deliberating and thinking about the consequences of his actions. There is a woman who is throwing sheets into the river below him. In this opening moment, both these characters are vulnerable. Hai is far more ashamed of that vulnerability compared to Grzynia, who is the 82-year-old Lithuanian woman he meets. She invites him into her home, as understandably this would bond you when presented in such a scenario, and a friendship forms and the story carries on from there. I am really enjoying it so far. So the plan for this afternoon is to set up an outdoor play area for the ducklings, and there are many new plants in bloom, so I'll give you a garden tour, and I think there are a couple seedlings that are ready to be transplanted so we can play in the dirt together. So let's head on out. Hi girls, just shade bathing. Hello again. It is now Sunday afternoon and we did manage to get a start on building a 6x6 outdoor play area, living space for the ducks. They're still too young right now to live with the hens, but I know they're going to be outgrowing the bathtub very soon. Apparently ducks and hens get along very well, but we still have to wait about 5 to 6 weeks before they can move in with their sisters. So after working on that little project, I did get some time to read. I finished this graphic memoir, Citizen 13660 by Mine Okubo, and this is a classic in Asian American literature. Mine Okubo was a Japanese American artist, activist, and children's book illustrator. It was originally published in 1946, and she studied anthropology and art at Berkeley, where she earned a traveling art fellowship. World War II broke out while studying there in Europe, and she got stranded there, but eventually made it back home to California in hopes to take care of her ill mother. Unfortunately, her mom died before her return, and her life continued to change drastically, particularly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The title refers to her name being stripped from her, and 13660 was the number assigned to her when she was incarcerated. And I love her bold, expressive illustrations, and they make one quite angry and ashamed of this horrific and tragic piece of American history that remains very relevant today. Their book that I am still reading is The Emperor of Gladness. We've gotten glimpses into the painful past of both Hai and Grazina. This is very much a novel about found family. After their initial meeting, Grazina asks if Hai can come and live with her as she has dementia and needs help, and so they are now roommates. I love the characters of Grazina and Hai, particularly their friendship. They feel so real. And perhaps my most favorite aspect to Vuong's writing is the dialogue. He brings a down-to-earth quality. His humor particularly brings a down-to-earth quality to the poignancy of his words. It is so funny, and I'm really, especially the restaurant scenes, and yeah, I've been really enjoying this one. So this is the end of this little reading vlog. Thank you so much for joining me. Please let me know what you've been reading lately and whether you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'm gonna go play with some duckies now. Take good care. See you next time. Bye-bye.